So our first presentation is from Aguiar, and basically, how much is a person worth? Aguiar explores the dark reality of sex trafficking and the ways that this crime and its victims connect with our lives in potentially transformative ways.
Thank you. Today I'd like to talk to you about industry. Industry is a group of businesses that provide a particular product or service. Now, when I think of industry, I think of commercialization and products and goods you can buy. However, I don't think of sex or love. During this project and researching, I realized that sex trafficking is what happens when love and sex and industry collide. Sex trafficking is a modern form of slavery that involves the selling or exploitation of sex acts. It turns natural things like love and sex and sexuality into a commercialized product. Globally, this industry is worth $150 billion. There are 20 million sex slaves around in the entire world, and it's the third largest growing industry of organized crime, right behind drug trafficking and illegal arms trafficking. Each slave is sold on average for about $90 each, and they can be sold, and then they can be sold again, and again, and again, up to 20 times a day. And they'll be sold for $90 for each sex act. And you may think that this doesn't happen in America, it only happens in places like the Philippines or Cambodia. However, I'd like to inform you that nationally, sex trafficking is worth $30 billion. And there are between 14,500 and 17,500 slaves trafficked every year in the United States. There's no promise of jail time for pimps or the people who traffic the women. Trafficking an adult by the use of violence or force is a 1 to 5 year sentence, but without the use of force, the pimps would only receive 18 to 48 months in jail time. Most of the pimps can post bail, and the bail is equal to that of a felony charge. The U.S. spends 300 times less on sex trafficking than it does on illegal arms and drug trafficking. And they operate with ease in the United States because of places of online sources like Craigslist and Backpage.com, where they will post girls' profiles, and men can go on there and order a girl like you order a pizza. 98% of the people being trafficked right now are women. It does happen to men, but prominently it is women who are being trafficked. And 83% of confirmed trafficking victim cases are American, and those girls are between the ages of 12 and 14 years old. Each pimp requires their prostitute to meet a quota for the night. So they'll set up, say, $2,000 that the girl has to make, and they have to go out and do whatever it takes to make that money. Or they can be beaten, they can be burned, they can be whipped, whatever their pimp decides to do to them. A pimp is a criminal who's associated with, usually exerts control over, and lives off the earnings of one or more prostitutes. There are a few different types of pimps. There are a Romeo or a finesse pimp, and what he does is he romances the girls, and he pretends to be a boyfriend or a husband or a lover, and he'll shower her with gifts and gain her trust and her love, and at that point she'll do anything for him. And then one day he'll ask her for a favor, and that favor will lead to more favors. And from those favors, you'll get sex trafficking. Next is a guerrilla pimp. And a guerrilla pimp will openly use violence and force. They'll burn their victims. They'll whip them. They'll rape them, trap them in rooms, starve them, and even get them hooked off of drugs like heroin or crack cocaine. And something that all pimps use is manipulation. And what manipulation does is it lowers each girl's self-worth, so that they don't even want to leave anymore. They're trapped under this pretend control that their pimp has over them, and they'll threaten their families, they'll threaten their lives, so they won't even want to stay. They'll just try to protect the people outside. Pimps have an agenda. So step 1, they will get the girls, however they may. Step 2, they assert themselves as an authority figure, and that might mean getting them hooked off drugs, getting them beaten or lowering their self-worth so they can be their protector or their father. Next, they'll groom the victims, and what that means is that they will take a certain amount of time to train the victims how to be good prostitutes. and how to make enough money for them. And then the fourth step is to set a quota and send them out. The girls follow an automatic, and an automatic is a set of plans that they have to do every night to make the money that they need for the pimp. And what's interesting is that the girls are so brainwashed that even if their pimp is in jail, they will follow this automatic to please him, to get him money so that they won't be in harm's way. The girls are branded with tattoos or burns, and they are trafficked along a circuit. So a pimp might have many different cities that he takes the girls to make money, and he makes sure that he can traffic those girls in a specific area so before he moves them. These are sex trafficking hotspots. All of these places have predominant sex trafficking, and what's scary about this is that the girls are being taken here to be trafficked, and people are buying them. There are men purchasing these girls in all of these spots, and in spots you don't see, but these are the major ones. And look at the East Coast. Look at New England. Look what's happening here. The girls are taught how to behave around other pimps. They're taught to avoid reckless eyeballing, which means making any kind of eye contact whatsoever with another pimp. Because if they do, the other pimp gets the girl. Some pimps do crazy things, one being Aquarius Ford. They set trends, as they like to call them. His trend was inspired by the McDonald's dollar menu, and he would have his girls perform an X number of sex acts for however many dollars. Pimps will go to extreme measures not to be caught. One pimp that I know of used 9 social security numbers, 22 different names, and 6 different dates of birth. Many victims are too afraid to testify. They're caught in a position where their families are threatened, their lives are threatened, and even though their pimp is physically away from them, he still has psychological control over them. I learned that sex trafficking was and is the biggest, quickest growing organization of organized crime in the entire world. And it's more profitable and less risky than drug trafficking because there's no promise of jail time. And oftentimes you'll hear of prostitutes getting caught and being put in jail. But what about the people that are prostituting them? What's happening to them? I volunteered in an organization called Stop Abduction, and in doing my service I realized that there are not a lot of places for these girls to find safety. They do have safe houses, but there are not enough. These girls need to be protected and reconditioned into society because they have major trust issues. They have broken hearts, and I'm imploring you all to make a change today and to educate people and to speak out about this problem because it's not something that we can sweep under the carpet anymore. It's a dirty, horrible subject. And I'm asking you all to educate yourselves and to educate the people you know. And if you take anything away from me today, I would like you to think about your daughters and your sisters and your mothers. And even though those women may not be being trafficked right now, the women who are being trafficked are people's mothers and sisters and daughters. Thank you.